Hey my friends, Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. You're watching the Rideshare review for the 2017 Kia Niro. What's a rideshare review? Well, if you drive for Uber or Lyft, or perhaps you deliver for DoorDash or GrubHub, and you're looking for a car for your business, this is a review aimed specifically at you. Now, if you're a consumer and you want a regular review that I do with the scoring and all the ratings, click down below in the information section and you'll find that full review there. But this review is for the guy who's using his or her car to make some money. The Kia Niro is Kia's first dedicated hybrid car, and so it really does compare to the Toyota Prius and the Hyundai Ionic, which is built on the same platform architecture and mechanicals, as Hyundai and Kia are the same company when it comes to headquarters. So when we look at this car here, it has the same 106.3-inch wheelbase that you're going to find on the Hyundai Ionic, as well as the Toyota Prius, so it's about the same size, but there's a big difference here. This is tall like an SUV, like a crossover, so it is the tallest of the three, about 60.5 inches tall, and it's about 3 inches taller than the Hyundai Ionic, so it does stand apart visually as well as physically overall. It's a larger vehicle when it comes to height. Now, as you can see with the styling here, they've done a good job on that. If you've watched Kia lately, you know that they're on a tear when it comes to styling. We've got the tiger nose grille that's got a lot of sculpting going on there. The lower fascia, very pleasing to look at. This is a fully loaded touring model here, so down below we've got the radar sensor built into the grille and a few extra niceties here like the fog lights down there and these headlights. This has the tech package, so these are HID headlights. They have a full LED light up there for the signature lighting during the driving lights, and they really light up well at night. Blinkers right there in the side. It's a pleasing looking headlight, and the wheel on this is an 18-inch wheel. Now if you go down to the standard vehicle, it comes with a much smaller wheel and a skinnier tire, and that has an outcome for fuel economy, and we'll get to that here shortly. Styling overall though, it's Kia. It does not look like a hybrid when you first look at it, and that really is what they meant to go after here. They wanted it to look like a normal everyday car. Because this car is taller and designed to be a little bit more like a crossover SUV than the Hyundai Ionic or the Toyota Prius, you've got a lot of height here, which means it's a lot taller. And here, as you can see with this longer wheelbase here, this rear door is actually quite large, so when you're opening it up, it's actually going to be a lot easier for passengers to get in and out of the back, and because it is taller, there's more headroom getting in and out. People won't have to really worry about bumping their head nearly as much. Now the rest of the vehicle, as you can see, it's very SUV-like, doesn't look like a traditional hybrid like you find in the Toyota Prius. Got a nice roof spoiler back here, nice tall hatch, easy to get into. It's got a higher lift, and the black plastic cladding that you normally find on an SUV or a crossover does come along the rocker. It does go around the wheel openings and ties into this rear fascia here, which is very pleasing to the eye. And when you are getting into the rear hatch, you got a nice lift right here. Now it doesn't have a power hatch, but again, they're calling this a crossover. It's really a car. The interior of the Niro is very much like you might expect, feeling like it's a crossover because it is taller by quite a margin. You do have the higher seating position in here than you're going to find in the Hyundai Ionic or the Toyota Prius. And the design in here is a very traditional interior design. It's not a science project like some of the cars out there, and yet they've still managed to make it high tech. You've got touchscreen audio, whether you're in the base model all the way up to the fully loaded touring that we've got here. This is clearly a premium product when it comes to the fit and finish and the quality of materials in here. And Kia in general has done a very good job when it comes to their interiors. The switchgear of a very high quality, just like in their more expensive cars. And here we've actually got a unique trim combination in this car with the nice blue accents with the gray. Very nice. Now if you get the dark interior, it's all black. You don't get those blue accents, but if you do choose this combination, that's what you get. And you do see those blue accents also here in these leather seats with the gray leather. You've got the blue stitching. Very tasteful, I think, and they're comfortable here on the touring, heated and ventilated. Wonderful when it's hot in the summer here or cold in the winter. tilt and telescoping steering wheel, and ahead of it you have a big TFT display that lets you customize a lot of what you're looking at there, and you sort of have that 2-dial look. A traditional dial for the speedometer, and then over on the left you've got an eco indicator that shows you what's going on with your charge, with your regenerative braking, as well as your power. So you can keep an eye on what you're doing in terms of power and economy. Steering wheel has all the controls for your audio and trip computer, just very well laid out. And here on the steering wheel also you do have that blue stitching that comes with this trim grade. The storage also very good in here. You've got a big tray up here in the front. In this particular car it has the Qi wireless charger. You've got a USB port up there and an auxiliary port, 2 12-volt charging ports up there. Down here in the center console you've also got another USB port for charging. It's a little bit higher power, lots of room in there. The way the center console is laid out, very good. You've got cup holders right here in the center, which means you can have large drinks right here and they're not in the way of the shifter. Down here you've got the button, the controls for the heated and ventilated seats, as well as the heated steering wheel that's here. So again, lots of options. Some of the best design features in here do come all the way down in that base grade, that being the storage, the layout, and the high quality materials. When it comes to rear seat space, the fact that they've sort of designed this as a crossover really does pay off back here. You've got plenty of legroom here, actually 3 inches more legroom than you're going to find in the Prius. And these seats here are adjusted for my height, about 5'9", so they're about halfway forward, halfway back. And as you can see, I've got plenty of space. Now the seating height right here, I'd say, is mid-range. It's not the lowest in class, not the highest in class. There is a battery underneath here, so it's higher than it might otherwise be in, say, the Hyundai Ionic or down there in the Prius. Even though they do have batteries under the seat, the seating position is a little bit lower. Headroom, of course, as you might expect, very good. I've got some good amenities back here, air vents, very nice thing, especially here in Arizona when it gets very hot in the summer. And because this one is a fully optioned vehicle, I've got the 115-volt AC outlet back here. There's a power inverter, so I could plug in any number of different devices back here. These seats, as you might expect, do fold down in a 60-40 split, and really impressive to me, given the high seating position here, is the fact that once they are folded down, you've got a perfectly flat load floor back there. I'm very impressed with that. What I'm not so impressed with is the fact that under that load floor, no spare tire. You've got an emergency inflator, which I never really like that much, because most of the time when we get a flat, it's because we've cut a tire open on something or we've blown a tire. That's not going to help you there. You have to get a tow truck. So the good news there is room for a full-size spare back there. You can option that at the Kia dealership if you really, really want one, but you're going to have to spend up for it. One of the best things about this interior, if you're using this car for your everyday driver in a rideshare or a delivery business, is the fact that even if you get the base grade, unlike the Touring that I've got here, it comes with a 7-inch touchscreen that still has satellite radio, you still have Bluetooth connectivity, and you still have down here that big bin for your phone, and you've got USB ports, auxiliary, you've got full functionality when it comes to the infotainment system. So the car's fun to live in, even if you get the base grade. So that's not something some of the competitors can say. And obviously if you step up into the Touring or anything in between, you get the much nicer audio system here with the Harman Kardon. So I think that they've done a good job here in setting this car up as a good option for using it every day in a business when it comes to the technologies as well as this interior design. Under the hood of the Niro is an all-new powertrain for this as well as the Hyundai Ionic. Here it's a 1.6-liter gasoline direct-injected engine with an Atkinson cycle, which means it's very fuel efficient. It's also not very powerful with 104 horsepower on its own, but you combine it with a 43 horsepower electric motor and the 6-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission, and it does offer up 139 combined system horsepower. And with this transmission, it has a much more traditional driving feel than you're going to find in the Toyota Prius with its CVT. So the first thing you notice right away when you start driving this is the fact that it drives like a normal car, and that's because, as I mentioned, this has a 6-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. So instead of a continuously variable transmission like the Toyota Prius, this has a more traditional type of feel. It shifts gears. It shifts gears. When you step on the gas and you accelerate, it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And so it feels like a normal car. And that's whether you're on electric power or gasoline power or both. It doesn't matter. The way this is designed, you get that traditional shifting feel regardless of which power source you're using. And so right out the gate, that pays dividends in how this car feels when you're driving around town, stop and go traffic, and when you're accelerating with a little verve even. And 139 horsepower, even though it isn't the kind of horsepower you might get in some economy sedans. Most of them are 140, 150, 160. It moves the car pretty good, better I might say than the Prius. And when you're sitting in traffic, it's nice to be able to hit the gas when somebody finally gets out of your way and get some power. And so to that, when you do ask for power, the engine doesn't make a lot of unwanted racket. It's got a pretty nice sound to it. And when you do ask for power from a stop, the take-up with this dual clutch transmission is actually pretty predictable. And so really what you get here is a car that can deliver the kind of fuel economy in the city that most cars can't, and it also has a pretty nice driving demeanor, I think, as well. Now out on the highway, passing power, pretty good, but most people are probably going to be buying this car and using it as an around town car, which is why most of my week has been spent doing that. In such, I've managed 45 miles to the gallon on my tanks of fuel that I've done, and I actually put a lot of miles on this car this week, so 2 full tanks of gas, and so that's actually measured at the pump 45 mpg. Now this car, as it's equipped, is only rated at 43, so I've actually exceeded what they've said. So no, that's pretty good. Now you can get far better fuel economy than that if you get the base model in this car. The ratings are actually quite a bit higher, and that's because you have the skinnier tires on the base model, and they're better for fuel economy. As it is, I'm pretty impressed with this powertrain, not only for the little bit of extra power that you get, the fun to drive traditional driving character, and still pretty good fuel economy to boot. The other thing Kia's managed to do here with the Niro is give you a pretty refined driving experience. Again, spending most of my time around town, it's actually given me a good read on how the suspension is tuned for everyday ride over bumpy streets, potholes, tar strips, gutters, things like that. This car actually has a very high level of refinement, and that goes to its rubber isolated subframes, and it goes to a pretty good chassis tune with a stiff structure. And even at higher speeds out on the highway, this manages to have a very quiet ride, and that's saying a lot because with these low rolling resistance tires, a lot of times you get a higher amount of road noise than you would otherwise. But they've put together a nice package here that has good steering feel, and even though they're sort of marketing it as a crossover, it's not really a crossover SUV, obviously. It doesn't have all-wheel drive. It's not lifted up, and the benefit you get there is it still handles like a car. Called a crossover, sort of feels like one inside with all the room here, but it doesn't handle like one. It actually has some pretty tight handling if you take a left turn at a stoplight at a pretty good clip, as well as curves on a windy road. It actually does a pretty good job of delivering back some feedback and a little bit of spunk, dare I say. Summing it up and really looking at how this compares to the Hyundai Ionic as well as the Toyota Prius, if you're looking to do this as a rideshare vehicle or even a delivery vehicle, let's start with the fact that it's larger, it has more space. So your customers are going to be much happier with this car, getting in and out of it as well as sitting back there. 3 across seating, it's actually pretty comfortable. And it's actually going to be pretty comfortable for you because it does have the higher seating position that you're going to expect in a crossover type vehicle, not sitting down so low. The other thing is, even in the base model, it comes with a lot of standard equipment, satellite radio, big touchscreen, Bluetooth, all the connectivity that you want. Not all the cars do that in this class. The other thing is, it's fun to drive. A regular transmission, it doesn't have a CVT. If you're a driver that enjoys driving, you're going to have much more fun. You're going to enjoy this car every day a little bit more than you probably would the Toyota Prius. And then lastly, Hyundai and Kia both have the 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. I mean, if you're buying this car and you're going to put 100 miles a day or better on it, and you're going to have it for quite a few years, well, that warranty means something, because a Prius, when it's got 80,000 miles on it, yeah, the anecdotal evidence says you're not going to need a warranty, but what if you do? It's nice not to have to worry about that. So to be honest with you, I think if I were in the rideshare business and I wanted to be able to spend just a few more bucks to get something that's not only good for my business but comfortable for me and my customers, This is a nice middle ground for that. The Hyundai Ionic, I think, if you don't mind something a little bit lower, a little bit smaller, and you want that extra fuel economy, that is the choice there. But this, I think this is definitely worth looking at and doing a pencil on if you're in the business. I'm Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. I hope you enjoyed the ride share.